Hi all, thank you for joining the session. So we will start by 10:05 because many participants are joining. So we give them a couple of minutes and we kickstart the session by 10:05. And during the course of session, if you have any queries, please feel free to type using the Q&A forum where you can type your queries and it can be addressed in the later part of the session. Hi all, thank you for joining today's session. And today we are coming to the part 2 of the session on bicycle group set components and introduction. And please feel free to raise your queries using the option Q&A if in case there is an audio disturbance or if you are not able to see the screen. And also you can type in your queries during the session so that um, we can address the queries at a later part. And also you have an option to raise hands. If you have anything specific to raise, you may raise as a Q&A because we have disabled all the participants since it's a webinar so that we could conduct moderately all queries and address all queries. We try to address all the queries in the session. If still remaining, we will address by email and we will try our best to address all the queries in the session. And to give a brief introduction, you might have already seen the part 1 video where we have covered basically the different bicycle groups at brands, shifters, front derailleurs, rear derailleurs, and coxet, and also indexed and non-indexed type. So that give you an insight on what is the bicycle group set and much wider view which you may not have seen in the outside world. So now we are coming to part 2. Those who have missed the part 1, they can see the session from part 1 YouTube video. So now we are moving into this today's session. Give a couple of give a minute so that some of participants also joining. So we will give a single minute to so that other participants can join. And to give a brief introduction about me, I basically ride bicycles and I was part of the Cochin Bikers Club team, which actively introduced the BRM to Kerala. And also I travel extensively and professionally I'm an IT professional with, with international IT companies and also an ex-banker. I work as a design team member for the Zale bicycles. Now we will go into the details of today's presentation. So today we are going to cover basically wheels, chain wheel, chain, and brakes. And those who missed the part 1, they can see the link from the part 1, they can view it. And now today we will start with the chain wheel. As you might have seen, like chain wheel is one of the key part where you use your feet to put your pressure on the bicycle to move ahead. So this is one of the fundamental types of freewheel, I mean like crankset. So this one is called one piece or Astabula cranks. This is primarily used for entry level bicycles and you may find mostly in kids bicycle. This is a widely used model because it's a basic entry level and it's long lasting. At the same time, it's a balance between the price and the performance. And this is very popular in the entry level bicycles. Please hold on. I just set a timer so that we will cover the session. We try to cover the session in 30 minutes, and if there is any overshoot, we will try to address it. Today's session will be a fast-paced one because we have a lot of topics to cover. And when we will see the different types of chain wheel. As I mentioned, like this is one of the type chain wheel, and there are different categories we have called quarter type and quarterless type. So this is one of the most common type you might have seen across in many Indian models because this type of cranks are manufactured primarily in India. Across world, the markets have shifted primarily to quarterless type. So one of the key differentiation of quarter type is like you would be able to see a nut which actually connects the crank arm to the your chain wheel. This is one of the key feature because uh, there is a balance between price and also the classic aspects. So this is mostly used in the classic bikes, and you can see very popular in entry level bicycles, kids bicycles, also those extensively manufactured in India. Now we will see the what is a quarterless type. In quarterless type, the key difference is that crank arm is connected to your bottom bracket through some thread. So this is one of the key difference. So to illustrate more effectively, we have enclosed a picture of the screw here and a cross-sectional view of the crank arm, and also you can see a wider view. So you could see one key difference is that bottom brackets is widely used in quarterless type, whereas quarter type do not have bottom brackets, and mostly it connects through a through axle or a kind of axle. And this is one of the key factor which I mentioned, part of the quarterless thing, which you can see from your hub. So this is a tapered type. Here it's you are actually your crank arm gets fit in and get tightened up, and this holds your crank arm. And if you see the quarter type, this is the key difference. Here you can see how your crank arm is connected, and here you can see how your crank arm will be getting connected. That is typically your crank arm will not have a screw to tie to your bottom bracket. And now we will see the different types of bottom brackets. As you know that quarterless types comes with a bottom bracket, and these are the different types. And this comes based on the various group set which you use. And this is primarily the taper type is the commonly used in the entry level, entry to mid range. And these are specialized type of bottom brackets. This is used in maybe road bicycles or in specialized drivetrains, like which is extensively used in trail bicycles or like that. So as you know that these types are more used on the high ends bicycles, and obviously as you know that your crankset goes on the higher side, there is a price difference as well. And this taper type is a commonly used one. And now we will see the different types of bottom bracket. And as you know that one of the key factor where we connect bottom bracket is the frame droplets. And this is the area where your bottom brackets goes into the bicycle frame. So this is called as bottom bracket shell. We have enclosed a picture of bottom bracket shell to visualize so that you understand where exactly this component gets fitted, because bottom bracket is not externally seen by a rider unless you remove the chain wheel and you remove the bottom bracket using specialized tools. Technically saying, like, you cannot remove it with hand. And now we also seen the bottom bracket shell. Now we will have a look at different types of bottom bracket. One type is the bottom bracket threaded type. You can see that here there is a thread which actually gets into the frame. So there is a matching thread here which gets coupled to the frame. So this is connected using that. And also we have enclosed two different types. You can see at both ends there is a thread. It's a different type of bottom bracket. And you can also see an inside components of a bottom bracket. This is at the tapered type. At a very high level, you can see that there are hollow bottom cranks as well. Now we will see different types of threads. This is typically the threader types comes in Italian thread and BSA. BSA is called British system or British thread. They call BSA is a short form which is widely used in the industry. So here you can see the key difference between the threads. So basically, as a layman, we may not be able to find big difference, but when you try to connect an BSA bottom bracket to a Italian thread frame, you find that it doesn't get suited. Because if you try to enforce it by forcing force, your frame may get damaged because you are applying too much force and breaking the thread which is in the frame. As you know that frame and threads are very delicate part, and it need precise measurements and precise handling to ensure that it is kept intact. And any damage to the threads will have a severe impact on your bottom bracket and your riding pattern, and it may cause damages to the frame, and the biggest damage is like injuries to the rider. Now we will see the another type called press fit. Here you can see the frame which do not have a thread, and typically the bottom bracket comes with a kind of flat surface, and which is like as the name is ignites, it connects as a press fit type. And now we will come to the different bottom bracket types. One is a seal bottom bracket and the another one is a ball bearing bottom bracket. So if you see the seal bottom bracket, the key factor is that you will find threads over here, and there is a through axle, and it connects to a typically sealed bearings. And if it's a ball bearing, you can see that it's a through axle is there, and your seals is basically using a balls. So technically when you go for servicing, probably the technician will open the seal and they try to put grease and repatch those balls and put back into the frame. So one key difference between the seal and the ball bearing is that seal has more life, especially when you are riding in the wet conditions, because it will not allow water to go inside and have a damage. Whereas in ball bearing type, it's frequently serviceable, but at the same time, it is prone to much more leakage or damages during rides on wet condition, especially when you ride too much exposure to uh, rain or wet conditions. There is a chance that water or particles go inside this bottom bracket shell and may cause rust or some kind of damage which may have impacts on your riding pattern. You can feel when you pedal it any deviations or any inefficiency in your bottom bracket. And now we will see the another part of bicycle crankset. One is the crankset arm length. Here you might have wondered why arm length is very critical, because arm length comes in critical when you are riding in a specialized category. I mean, like when you are a racer or a kind of custom bike, this do matter because it has a relationship with your height, your weight, and your reach and your riding style. And typically this customized crank arm length comes in the high-end bicycle or your custom bicycles, and most of the common bicycles comes with an industry standard measure so that it suits a wider set of riders. Just like you know that shoes are manufactured, though there are sizes varying from 8, 9, 10. There are intermediary sizes, but manufacturers either make a unit sizes or selectively make some intermediary sizes based on how it suits the best of the market and best of the riders or best of the groups. Similarly, in bicycle industry also, manufacturers choose the arm length according to the best interest of the rider group. And the next part is the crank arm material type. As you know that crank arm comes in various types. Similarly, the material used also varies. One of the commonly used material is steel, and the next type is steel with a plastic coating. This is classified as something like which helps in rusting, but technically worldwide this is not much popular, because as you know that there is a wide trend to ensure that things are used eco-friendly, and bicycle is positioned more as a eco-friendly vehicle, so the tendency is to minimize plastic as much as possible. And the next commonly used type for crank arm material is alloy, and alloy do comes in different categories like 6061 and above. So it's all depends on what type of ride and what type of weight it is need to support and what type of pressure it need to support in a real riding condition. And the next very special category type is carbon. This is very expensive, as you know that as carbon itself is a material very high end. And as you know that the carbon, all carbons are not same, because generally the community believes that when you say word carbon, just like steel or just like iron, all carbons are same. There is a deviation between carbon and rest of the materials, because carbon do comes in various grade of fabrics which is used to make that material. For example, one of the commonly used carbon material is Tore. Toray-Do comes in 700 series, 800 series, 900 series, 1000 series and above, based on the strength of the material, based on the type, and based on the usage. And apart from that, there is one more measure called weave. Just like as you know your clothes, you might have seen your clothes. The more closer your threads in your clothes, the more expensive the clothes are. Similarly, in carbon also, the more threads per smaller area, that means like the carbon is more good and more stronger, then the material or expense also goes up. So they generally in industry it's called like weave length or weave. uh, you can see any carbon manufacturer specifications, you can see the type of the materials used, strengths it's supported, and the weave it's supported, and the type of fabrication, because all these matters. If you have any queries in the in between during the session, please feel free to raise it. Now we will go to the bicycle chain. As you know, the chain is one of the key part which is connecting your transmission from your front legs to the rear wheel, and which helps in moving further. And this is one of the key factor everybody knows, because most of the time either we have small marks, love marks left by chain on our trousers or on our legs, especially when we don't lube it properly. Um, so what is the key difference in between chain? Chain is dependent on the speed of your drivetrain. As you see here, we have shown you the 6, 7, 8 speed chain link, 9 speed chain link, and 10 speed chain link. Here you can find that one of the key factors is the spacing between the chain varies as we move higher speed. Example, like lower speed may have a higher spacing, and as we move on further speed, the spacing gets smaller. So this is one of the key difference of the chain, and also why every speed has got a different chain. And one of the common component in part of the chain is that it is connected using a connector clip, because I have shown you how a chain is connected using a connector clip. As especially when you are going for a long rides, it's always advisable to carry some spare connector ring, because this will help you to mitigate any sudden damages to the chain rings chain, so that you can fix it and move on. And as you know that when you ride on longer distance, puncture fixing and the basic fixing like chain attachment, all key part to ensure a proper riding, you enjoy the riding independently. And also we have shown different measurements from 6 to 12 speed, because you know that 12 speed is very new to the market. You can find here the different speed and the measurements of the chain. Basically it's a gap between the two chain plates. You can find here that 6 speed comes with 6, 7, and 8 speed comes with 7.3 mm, and similarly 9 speed comes with 6.5 to 7 mm, and 10 speed comes with 6 to 7 mm. Similarly 10, 11, 12. 6, 7, 8 are commonly compatible, and similarly 9, 10 are compatible, and 11 and above are compatible. That's a common industry notion. And also you need to see which brand of group set you are using, because Shimano and SRAM are mostly compatible. Cambi may have a different measurement. So it's also key part to ensure that which drivetrain you use, so that you select the appropriate chain. And now we will see the belt drive. This is a very new to market. It replaces your chain, and it's widely pitched in the urban bicycles where it's used for commuting and daily office goers. And this typically comes in the very high-end bicycle, especially when it comes to the gearing system. You can see that it's widely popular among the single speed or gears where it uses the internal gearing system. So as you know that there are two types of gearing system. One is using chains that use shifters and pull it in various chain drive. And the other is like you have a gear which is internally built into that. So visibly it looks like normal hub, but it may have a built-in gear system. So that also is there. And there is another type called internal shaft drive that also uses belt. So it's primarily on the high-end side. And this is material is typically carbon, and the key difference is in your chain ring and also your cassette ring that also differs in order to support the belt drive. And now we will go into the brakes. As you know that brakes are one key part in a ride. You might have Many of you might have seen the movie Premium Rush. In movie there is one dialogue: "No brakes, brakes are death." That is in the movie, but in real life you need to have the brakes because when you are commuting, to ensure your safety and other safety, brake is one key part. And now we will have a look at different types of brakes. And the first one is commonly used one is rim brakes. And the key difference is that it's a mechanical braking system and it's actuated by lever. And one of the key factor in the rim visibly is that there is a brake band which is used for brake shoes. And there is a wear and tear which you can visibly identify from your rim. And you need to use some rim brake shoes based on the type of material of your rim. And this is a brake lever which is used to actuate a rim brake. Here we have marked two key components of a brake lever. One is a holder which is connects the brake lever to your handlebar, and the other one is a brake lever. Now we will see the different types of brake levers. One type is that different brake levers comes in different materials. One is full alloy or full steel, or sometimes half plastic, half full plastic. Similarly, the lever type also. Lever types comes with steel, plastic, or half alloy, full alloy. Also, you have to be very careful when you buy this type of brake levers. You need to see what is the specifications, because plastic can be coated with a metallic coating, so it looks like metal from the visible appearance, but you need to see the manufacturer specification or your component specification to identify whether it's really a metal or it's a plastic with metallic coating. You might have seen many toys coming with silver coating, or even imitation jewelry coming with golden color or silver color built on plastic. So these are metallic coating. And now we will have a look at the rim brakes. So I have shown you a band which typically the rim brakes get attached to the bicycle wheel when you apply the brakes. So you can find like a silver lining over your wheels over here. I've shown that for your easy understanding. And now we will have a look at the brake V brake. V brake comes with typically brake arm. I'm like you have a V brake arm and it has a mounting bolts. Mounting bolts do comes in plastic and metallic. Metallic comes in the very high-end V brakes, and plastic is commonly used in the basic to mid-end brakes. And also you can see the brake pads, and there's an actuator cable which connects you to the brake lever. And we have shown you the typical V brake arm and how it's practically used in a bicycle. And typically V brake lever arm is classified based on the type of material. Normally it comes in steel, and sometimes you can see the steel with plastic coating, and it also comes in alloy. And it also depends on the brake shoe supported, because some arms may not support a specific kind of brake shoes. For example, in order to use an um, alloy brake lever arms, you need to have a brake shoe built of alloy framework. And typically, as I said, like the key factors in determining the braking power is arm length and the arm material, whether it's a full alloy or plastic. And also there is a relationship between your brake lever arm and the size of the brake shoe supported, because it's commonly you found that many riders do think that wider the brake shoe it's more braking power, and they tend to replace a longer brake shoes for a small V brake. Now we will see the coaster brakes. This is a widely special brakes, and nowadays it's very popular and it's mostly commonly used in uh, fixie bicycles. Here the key factor is that when you pedal back, it actually stops your bicycle. And industry wise, this is one of the premium category of brakes because it saves you a lot of cost on the brake shoes, your rim life is extended, and you don't have to spend anything cost on the brake shoes periodic replacements. It's like most like a lifetime brakes comes with your bicycles. And next we see the caliper brakes. This is commonly used in road bicycles. You can see that this is called pivot, and caliper brakes do comes with pivot or without pivot, and it do comes with based on the brake shoes. You can see that this is a modern type which is supported in most of the road bicycles, and this is a traditional type, and mostly this type is seen in those caliper brakes without pivot. And the next is the center pull. This is very popular in many of the bicycles, and generally these brake shoes are compatible with your caliper brakes. And the next is the cantilever brakes. Cantilever brakes is a special category of brakes which is widely used in um, cyclocross, and you can also find some of the entry-level bicycles as well. And it do comes with different types of brake shoes. One is a threaded type and one is a non-threaded type. And based on the material it's supported, it may be compatible with your V brakes shoes, or it may need a specialized type. Now we will show you the typical V brake on the modern linear pull type. As you know that modern road bikes do comes with V brakes. It's a very special category because as you know that road bikes are ridden at a very high speed, and you need much more braking power. So bicycle road V brakes used in road bicycles that typically has full alloy in order to have a better braking power. And this is typically U brake, and U brake is widely popular in BMX style of riding. And now we will see the different characteristics of rim brake system. One is like what is the type of adapter used. Based on that, it to get classified based on which the commonly used materials are like plastic and metal. And then based on the arm material, it's mostly steel or steel with plastic coating and alloy. Carbon is not seen much on this space. And next is on the arm length, and next is on the brake shoe type of adapter, because there are different types of brake shoe systems comes in. One with you have to replace the entire cartridge, or there are something which comes with a reusable cartridge. So one thing you have to be very familiar is that when you are going for a reusable type, you have to ensure that you do have a supply, or you do get that reusable cartridge in the market. Otherwise you may end up with a cartridge which is reusable, but you won't get a reusable brake shoes for replacement. And the next characteristics of brake system is like based on the condition in which you are riding your bicycles, because dry is like typically you don't use on any what do you say, typically you don't use any monsoon, or typically you ride in ideal condition. And normal is like you ride, you may have a mixed terrain, and you may also have a wet condition where you have some kind of water or moisture content on your surface. And the next is wet condition. Wet condition is typically your cyclocross style of riding or MTB style of riding, where you are constantly exposed to the kind of off-road kind of terrain. And the next is based on the brake pad material. As you know that the rims do comes in different types of material. Accordingly, you need to select your brake pad. So if you are using a steel rim, the type of material that you use in brake shoes is different. And typically it's more of stronger material, because your steel is much stronger, so it need to be stopped by friction. And next is alloy. Alloy is much more of a softer material, and it need to be gently pressed to the frame, so that pressed to the rim so that it can stop. And next is a carbon. As you know that carbon is a material made of a carbon fiber. It's a kind of cloth. Imagine that a cloth is made to a rigid surface. The more you apply brakes, the cloth's external surface get removed, and over a period of time it gets exposed. So the carbon brake shoes are very delicate material, and it's a very specialized category. So the difference is that if you use steel rim on alloy, your rim gets worn out very rapidly. The same thing with carbon. If you use no brake shoes which are not suited to carbon rim, then your wheels or the carbon rim get worn out very rapidly, because once the clothes are the carbon rim's outer layer gone, your rim gets weakened. And next is the brake shoe length. Brake shoe length also has a factor in your riding condition. Based on your riding pattern and the supported length on your brake system, you need to select the brake shoe length. Normally it comes in 50 mm, 60 mm, 70 mm, 80 mm. And the next we see the disc brake. Disc brakes are typically activated by lever, and as you know that most of the brake systems are activated by some lever, and except the coaster brakes. And we have typically two types comes in disc brake system. One is mechanical disc brake, and next is a hydraulic disc brake. And next key differentiation in disc brake is that it's a rotor size and what type of rotor used on different terrains, and the oil used in the brakes system. And also there is a key difference in the brake system mounting. You can see that there are different types of mounts based on your frame, and there is an adapter also which can be used. This is called universal adapter, and it can be used to support different types of frames. And the adapter comes in different pattern. You could see the manufacturer specifications for more details. And this is a picture of a typical mechanical disc brake. Here you can see that the disc brake units and also disc brake unit with the rotor. And here you will be having the cable which is tied to your lever and will get activated on pulling it. And this also comes in single pivot and dual pivot. And the next is the mechanical disc brake based on rotor classification. Based on the rotor, it comes with iron or cast iron, steel, and much on the higher end it comes with a ceramic, because as you know that when you apply disc brakes, it gets heated up. So based on your riding pattern, some places or very high end, there is a ceramic coating get applied so that the heat generated is minimized. And the next is a commonly used rotor. 160 mm is widely used, and 180 mm is also very popular. And the next key specialized size comes from based on your riding pattern. If you are a key person who rides always in the terrain like mountainous terrain or downhill, then your rotor size will be entirely different based on the type of wheel or type of ride you are exposed to. And when you select a proper rotor, you also need to keep in mind your riding style and the riding terrain. So in order to have a proper braking, you need to use an appropriate brake system and appropriate rotor also. And one key factor you have to remember is that the same brake system can support rotor with iron or rotor with steel or rotor with ceramic. And normally sizes are specific, like normally 160 mm may not be able to support 180 mm. And the next is the type of brake cables. As you know that there are different types of brake cables based on the type of pressure you apply or the braking power it's supported. And the two types of commonly used braking oils are like one is mineral oil and the another is DOT fluid. And we also enclose a picture of different brake pads. So these are the pictures from different types of brake pads supported across the spectrum. So it may vary based on your manufacturer, based on the type of terrain it's supported, and based on the type of brand it's supported. All this matters. So sometimes the brake shoes are compatible. So when you replace this brake shoe, you need to be ensure that your brake shoes are compatible with your brake system. And now we also have a look at the different types of materials that goes into this brake shoe, especially for disc brakes. And in disc brakes, one of the commonly used materials are resin, and traditionally it's also comes in asbestos. Now, as you know that asbestos is a material which is banned worldwide. So not many brands makes with asbestos, but it comes with asbestos, especially in developing countries like India and Southeast Asia. Also, the next material is organic, and it may be a mix of resin or other organic materials. And the next type is semi-metallic, which may be a mix of metal and semi-organic or resin. And next is pure metallic. Pure metallic is typically used in the extreme riding conditions, like when you're riding an MTB or cyclocross kind of terrain. And one key factor as you need to notice is that as you move from resin to metallic, your life also varies. And it also determines on the type of ride you are exposed to. Resin is typically used for entry level or casual or novice riding and has relatively smaller lifespan. And the next is like the metallic, which is on the higher side. It is used for specialized ride or professional or extreme use, and it has a relatively longer lifespan. And one key factor you have to remember is that the life of your brakes depends on how you use your brakes. Maybe even if you use a high-end one, and if you are used to apply brakes more often, then the life get cut short. And as you know that it's similar to your riding a motor vehicle. In motor vehicle, you have the brakes feature similar to in our cycles, but the more you apply your brakes, the less the mileage you get and the less the engine life. Similarly here, engine is you, and the life is depend on your brakes. I mean, like when you use brakes more often, your brake life gets minimized, and accordingly your rim's life based on the type of brake system you are using. And next we will see wheels. We have purposely put wheels at the end because all other factors which we have discussed, especially the chain and especially the brakes, it do have a bigger impact on the wheels, especially your riding pattern. Now we will see the different types of wheels. One of the commonly used type is Klinger wheel. So you can see the difference here. I've enclosed the picture of Klinger wheel. Here you will find that a small clip is there where your tire gets holded down here. And the next is the tubeless type. And tubeless type comes with two widely common category: tubeless ready wheels and tubeless wheel. So as a layman, you may not find any big difference between these two words, but one of the common example is that these two are two different products. Tubeless ready wheels may be a traditional wheel on which you can use a tubeless wheel as well, but tubeless wheel is a purpose built tubeless wheel. Maybe another common analog from us common life is that you might have seen in televisions that your many brands advertise like HD ready and HD. Actually these two are two different aspects. HD is pure HD. HD ready is like you can play some certain class pixel sizes. So similarly, that's the key difference between the tubeless ready and tubeless wheel. Both are two different products based on two different category of wheels. And now we will see the different parts of wheel. One is the key rim, and the next is hub, and the next is spokes, next is nipples, rim tape, tire, tube, and tube types also. You may not have seen this much, but the most commonly used types are like Schrader, Presta. We will go into these details as we move further down the slides. And one of the classification of rim is based on the wall type it's supported. It's the commonly used type as single wall rim and double wall rim, and the type of material used to make the rim. One is a steel, which is commonly manufactured in India. Alloy manufacturing do happens in India, mostly in the single wall, but double wall still do get manufactured outside India. Alloy, the next is a carbon rim. Carbon rim is a specialized category. As I mentioned earlier, carbon is not just one material. It itself is a wide topic on its own. And next is the type of brakes. Based on the type of brakes it's supported, your rim is different. Like the rim for rim brakes is different, and rim for disc brake is different. Probably you may be able to use rim brake for disc brake, but you cannot use disc brake rim on rim brake, because disc brakes rims are very light in weight and it may not be able to withstand so much mechanical abrasions. Now we have enclosed a view of rim single wall. I've enclosed here a single wall rim and its cross-sectional view so that you can visualize how inside it's different. And here is a wheel, and here is a cross-section view. So you can see that typically there is only one place, one thin wall exists from onto which your spokes gets hooked onto. And next we will see the double wall rim. So here you can see that typically a double wall rim has two layer of materials onto which your spokes gets hooked onto. And here is a cross-sectional view from it of a double wall rim. So you can find here that your spokes actually rest on the first layer, and there is a hole here, and your spokes do not get extended or get exposed to your tube. That's why double wall rims are much popular, because your tubes are much more protected. It does get less exposure to the spokes. And these are the different rim types based on rim profile. You can see the clingers, and based on the rim length, this is called the rim profile. It do comes in different length, like from 30 mm to 70 mm or wider carbon wheels. And these are the different types of cross-sectional views based on the riding pattern. So you need to select appropriate rim according to your riding pattern. For example, if you are a person who rides only on the flat surface, that is in the city conditions, any rim may find good for you. But if you are a person who is regularly riding in trails, then you need to select the appropriate rims, otherwise your wheels may fail. And you can see this is one of the manufacturer's cross-sectional view. You could probably see the manufacturer's specifications to see what type of riding condition it supports and what type of strength it has. And as I said earlier, we have rim classified based on the type of materials used. It's typically classified as steel, alloy, and carbon. And based on the selection of riding style, you need to be aware. And the next is the terrain exposure, the exposure on which you will be exposed, or the terrain on which typically you will be riding. And the next is the weight bearing, how much weight it need to support. And next is the type of spokes it need to support. And next is the brakes, whether you need to use a rim or disc brake. And as you know that now we come to the hub. Hub typically comes in different materials: steel, alloy, chromoly steel, carbon. Carbon hubs are new to the market. Chromoly steel is a typically very high-end hub, very lightweight than alloy also. And next is type of based on the bearing, because you might have seen when you open the hub, there is a seal cartridge or ball bearing. So based on that, there is a ball bearing hubs, which is on the basic to entry level or mid-range. And then there is a seal bearing hubs. And nowadays it comes with a ceramic bearing also. And you also need to see how much balls are supported. Based on the price do varies, because higher the number of balls, the higher the prices. And the type of coke set supported. In our part one, we did mention that hubs are different for freewheel and cassette. And next is this based on speed. Every hub can support a type of speed, and based on that you need to select it. And next is the disc brake or rim brake. So both hubs are different. These are the cross-sectional view of ball bearing hub. When you open it, this is how it looks like. And this is a seal bearing hubs. And I've enclosed a picture of ceramic bearing. Typically your seal bearing hub comes with a ceramic seal. And this is the difference between the freewheel hub and cassette hub. This is typically the freewheel hub, and this is typically the cassette hub. And now we will see types of brakes. I've enclosed the two different wheels. One is from Shimano 105 disc brake type, and one is from rim brake type. So you can see clearly the difference. One has a band over here to support the mechanical abrasion, and one do not have the band. And also the styling also may be slightly different. And next is rim tape. This is one key factor. We always tend to sideline it or misinterpret it. Rim tape material comes in like rubber, which is primarily at the entry level bicycles, and also sometimes comes with cloth or cotton, which is a semi high-end type. And next comes with plastic or PVC type, and also comes in nylon and nylon mix. And then another key factor is like how much pressure this rim tape can withstand. Say for example, many of us used to ride with puncture protection tires, which need at least 100 psi of pressure on the tires. But we always sideline the fact that our rim tape also need to support the same pressure. And we always get internal punctures because if rim tapes are not supporting the appropriate pressure, your tube gets caved in and puncture happens. So it's one of the key factor that your rim tape should match your bicycle tire specifications. And also it need to match the type of valve it support, like Shedder or Presta. And now we will go to a tire at a very high level. Different types of tire based on the material used. One is cotton, which is the traditional roadster tires, and next is nylon, which is commonly used in modern bicycles. And your tire need to be based on your type of terrain. Like if you are prone to more off-road terrains, you need to select the tire thread patterns accordingly. And also you need to see the suitability to your rim, because every rim has a specifications of tires it can support. And then special type of tires do comes in the market based on the puncture protection or downhill use, because now you need to understand that puncture protection and downhill use are much more heavier tires because it need to withstand much more extreme conditions. And now we also see different types of tubes according to the material. The tube material comes in natural rubber, butyl tube, and special purpose material. This is typically EVA foams or any other kind of special materials which is used in special category of bicycles. And then its suitable rim suitability we need to see, because the rim are specific to type of valve. Like rim may come with Shedder valve type or Presta valve type. The key difference is that the hole size will be different. So if you use a shaded rim with a Presta valve, you might get more punctures. And the next is the valve length. This is another one key factor we always tend to sideline, because based on the valve length, your price of tube varies. Because if you have a wider rim, that is like your rim profile determines how much length you need to have in the tube. Otherwise you may end up like spending too much time to pull your tube, especially in case of puncture. And next is type of the valve. Typically two types of valves are common, Shedder and Presta in modern bicycles, because these are two valves which is widely used across the world. And I have also enclosed a picture of different types of valve. A Shedder is commonly used. This is also commonly used in our motor bicycles, cars, automobiles. And the next is Presta. This is typically used in bicycles where we need to hold airs for more longer, or it's exposed to more extreme conditions. And this is a Dunlop valve. This is typically used in Asian countries, and it's also very popular in Europe, especially on the high-end niche bicycles. So now with this, we are coming to the end of the session. So now we are open to queries. So we will go to the queries. So we follow some ethics so that we may not entertain the brand specific queries or any brand concern specific things. One of the queries from Mr. Gobesh is cantilever brakes. Cantilever brakes is typically used in cyclocross, and it's a very special category. You could look to the Shimano website for to know more technical aspects about the cantilever brakes. And similarly, Mr. Abdul Hakim has raised a query on like, please tell different types of mounting, only telling universal. So you need to see your bicycle frame or fork specifications, and accordingly you need to select your disc brake. And you can see the manufacturer's website for different types of brake mounting systems, and it's also suitable adapters. And also he has asked for different types of valves. So we have already shown the different types of valves, Shedder, Presta, and Dunlop. Okay, and the next query is from Mr. Jagannath, how to access the life of rim. And what we understand is that Mr. Jagannath want to basically ask how to extend the life of rim, and how and when we should change the rim. So basically when you apply too many brakes, then it tends to have reduced life. For example, if you are using a rim brakes, if you are applying too much brakes, it causes a mechanical abrasion, and it has a wear and tear. And there is a small mark on your rim. Like typically you might have seen, like there is a cut on the rim, and when your cut gets aligned along with your rim wall, that's the time you have to change. Or some types of rim comes with a small dotted hole. When it gets fully erased, then you have to change the rim. So typically you have to see your rim and identify um, when it need to be replaced. Another key factor is that when it's about the end of the life, it will have small breakages, especially in the rim brakes on your wheels. And always to extend the life of the rim, apply less brakes. Ideally is like um, you should know when to brake, so that you minimize the drastic braking, like sudden braking. So you always ride systematically, so that you apply brakes well in advance, you know the place where to stop, like that. So that will it also comes as part of your riding style as well. And similarly with, if it's a disc brake, the life get extended based on your braking style. In case of a disc brake, it primarily applies to your disc brake pad. So basically, like in, if it's in rim brake, your rim gets changed, but in case of disc brake, your brake pad gets changed. And another key factor is like, based on your braking style, your rotor also gets changed. If you are not properly applying the disc brakes, your disc brake pad gets changed, and also your rotor do gets changed. So for a proper ride, it is very key that you apply proper brakes. And technically speaking, brakes are supposed to be used when you really need it, and you need to really know when to stop well in advance, so that you apply less brakes. Yeah. Do we have and we have one more query on the wheel size. Mr. Alan Philip has raised, like, is it okay to use 27.5 wheel or for an XL size MTB? I am 193 centimeter tall. See, as we mentioned earlier, every person has their own preferences on wheel sizes and those aspects. So it depends upon individual choice and wheel size. As you know that 26 has is wheel size is widely popular in international market, and 29er is also popular. And so, as you know that each brand do propagate their own versions of wheel size. For example, Trek is widely popular in 29er, like, because in fact Trek was the first brand to come up with 29er wheel. And similarly 27.5 wheel size is introduced by Giant. So Giant do propagate that 27.5 wheel is more popular. So it's all depends upon the brand. Like, they just, every brand has their own preferences or their own strategies, so accordingly they promote the wheel size. So ideally speaking, it should be based on your riding style, your riding height, because for a layman, none of these sizes does make big difference. But if you, maybe if you're a competition level rider, like professional cadre of rider, maybe 1 second here and there makes two difference. But for a layman, the wheel size doesn't make big differences. Do you have any further queries? So we almost addressed all the queries now. So if we don't have any further queries, we will stop the session now. We will wind up the session now. So if you do still have some queries, please do feel to reach us on our Bike Mic email ID, which you already received in our registration email. And do give us the feedback, so that we can come up with more topics, more interesting topics, and more knowledge-based information as a rider and as a community to you. Yeah, that's all for today's session. Thank you all for joining today's sessions. Please do share your feedbacks. Thank you.